Imagine that your entire life depends on just four little words. Not on fate, not on chance, not on someone else's help, but on simple phrases that most people don't even realize exist. Why do some people, starting from the same conditions, spend years in disappointment, while others find the true flavor of life even in the darkest moments? I too once stood at this crossroads, and believe me, the difference between despair and breakthrough is much smaller than it seems. And today I'm not just going to share this paradox, but I'll show you exactly how these four words once literally pulled me out of the abyss. But that's not all. At the end of the video, you'll receive a practical guide that I once got from my mentor, and which could become your own personal starting point. So if you've ever felt stuck, or suspected that life should be deeper today, we'll reveal the main secret of the value of life. Do you know what has always amazed me? The paradox of life. People can have the same starting conditions, the same age, education, sometimes even the same bank account balance, yet after 10 years, they end up in completely different places. One has built their own business, raised a strong family, learned to live with joy, while the other has remained at the starting line, resentful toward the whole world, and worst of all, toward themselves. Why is that? What is the cause of this gap? Why, after going through similar hardships, do some people give up while others find the strength to keep going? I spent a long time searching for the answer to this question, and to be honest, I haven't always been on the winning side. Think back to yourself at 25, the whole world ahead, big dreams, and an empty bank account. That was me, a young guy from a farm, no money, no connections, with a diploma I didn't even really finish. What do you do when all you see around you are walls of limitation? Most people in such moments just give up. Well, I guess it's not for me, it's too late. But right then, in the darkness of uncertainty, I first heard the words that saved my life. 4 simple truths my mentor revealed to me, which later became the foundation of my whole philosophy. That's what I want to talk about today, because I am convinced it's never too late to start over if you know where to begin. Let me ask you, how many times have you faced a moment when it seemed pointless to keep moving forward? How many times have you told yourself, I've had enough, I can't go on? But here's the paradox. It's in those very moments of life when your hands are ready to drop that a new strength is born. I've always loved to say, the real breakthrough isn't where it's easy, it's where it hurts, where you feel like giving up. That's why today I want to talk not about external success, money, status, prestige. Because that's just the tip of the iceberg. The real struggle is inside. It's between you and your sense of self, your choice to learn or to stand still, to try or to back down, to stay or to run away, to care or to shut yourself off from the world. It's amazing, but life is actually not as complicated as it seems. One of the worst illusions is to believe that happiness and success are the result of circumstances, a good job, a lucky year, connections, luck. In reality, the main question is always this: what kind of person do you become while you struggle? That's why I say you can get more if you become more. And if you don't change, you'll always have what you have. And this isn't just a catchy phrase, it's a law of life, personally tested by me and by thousands of people who once decided to try things differently. You're watching this video for a reason. Maybe you've been searching for a new path for a long time. Maybe you're facing a choice that will affect not just today, but the next 10, 20 years of your life. I know what it's like to feel powerless when it seems like the world is conspiring against you. I know what it's like to stand at a closed door and not know where to go next. But if I learned how to find a way out in the worst times, believe me, anyone can. Because there is nothing stronger than a person who has decided to start with themselves. Today I invite you to take the first step to become a student of your own life. Learn even when it feels like you've learned it all. Try even when experience tells you might fail again. Stay even when everyone says, give up. Care even when you just want to close yourself off. These 4 steps are the true path to a life that's worth your effort. Each of these principles has been personally tested by me in the darkest and brightest times. I remember how my mentor, a simple person with little experience but great wisdom, once told me in the evening, Jim, if you want a different result, become a different person. Don't wait for the world to change, start with yourself. That wasn't just a lesson, it was a starting point. It was then, amid ordinary days and defeats, that I first realized my life isn't a set of random events, but the result of how I respond to challenges, and that choice is always mine. So today, at the start of our journey, I invite you to discover together those same 4 words that helped me survive where others gave up. Maybe they will become the key for you to a new level of strength, wisdom, and peace. I'm not promising easy answers, but I do promise honesty, real stories, and practical advice that really works. Because life doesn't wait, life moves forward, and it's up to us whether we become participants in this journey or stay on the sidelines of our own story. Remember, there's never a bad moment to start over, and today is the best day to do it. So get comfortable. Ahead is a conversation that just might be the very starting point that once changed my life. Friends, let's start with the first of the 4 little words that in reality carry enormous weight. Life is worth it if you learn. So simple, right? But how often do we underestimate this idea? Be honest, when was the last time you paused and honestly asked yourself what you learned today? Not what you read in the newspapers or overheard in the kitchen, but what truly influenced your thinking, your behavior, your future. This is where the very key to change is born, the one I want to talk to you about. When I was 25, I had neither money nor any special status, nor, frankly, deep knowledge. I was that same farm boy from Idaho who thought it's enough just to try hard. But the truth is, effort without learning bears no fruit. Once I heard a phrase that became a starting point for me. What you don't know can destroy you. Yes, exactly. Lack of knowledge isn't protection, it's a risk. Sometimes when we avoid new knowledge, we're simply afraid to face the truth. Sometimes you have to start from scratch, admit your mistakes, accept that you don't know everything in this world, but only those who dare to learn, grow, and ultimately win. You know, the biggest trap is thinking that learning ends with school or university. I used to think that way too. After a year of college, I dropped out, believing I had already received everything I needed. If only I had known then what I know now. My journey to real learning didn't start at a desk. I learned that true education isn't a diploma on the wall, but a daily drive to understand more about yourself, about people, about the world. This is what allowed me to get out of debt, change my habits, set goals, and eventually build a life I'm proud of. Learning isn't just about books, it's about observing what's happening around you. It's being attentive to the words of wise people, even if they don't have degrees. I often remember how my mentor, a simple person with no higher education, shared lessons with me that no professor ever could. He said, "Jim, learn from every conversation, every failure, every little thing. The world throws you lessons every day. Don't miss them." That's what truly pushed me, not just to live, but to always be open to new wisdom. You may ask, how do you learn when life throws challenge after challenge? Believe me, the most important lessons came to me when times were tough. I remember after yet another financial failure, I sat at home for a month mourning my misfortunes. Then I took a sheet of paper and wrote down everything I had done wrong. That's when I realized failure isn't the end, it's the university of life, where every setback is a lecture. The main thing is not to repeat the same mistake for too long. I always say, 1 year of mistakes is a school. The second year, that's just laziness and unwillingness to learn. Life begins with learning. Want to change your finances? Learn a new attitude toward money. Want to improve your relationships? Learn to listen and understand. Want to be healthier? Learn to analyze why you make the choices you do. And this is where real magic begins. As soon as you open yourself to new knowledge, the whole world starts to help you, to hint, to inspire. But most importantly, you become more interesting to yourself. That's the real flavor of learning. Every new day reveals a new you, more conscious, more confident, more alive. I always urge my listeners, learn to be a student of your own life. Don't just pass by other people's stories. Listen to them carefully. Find grains of wisdom in them. Read books not just to tick a box, but so they change your view of the world. Listen to advice even if it seems simple or trivial. There is always real power in simplicity. One good phrase heard at the right moment can become the very step that leads you out of crisis. But here's what's also important. You need to learn not just from successes, but from failures, your own and others. I have often said, it's a pity that losers don't give seminars. Because sometimes it's by learning from others' mistakes that you can save yourself from your own. I have always listened carefully to those who didn't make it, because that's priceless information, how not to do it, how not to waste years on what doesn't work, other people's pain, other people's failures, their textbooks too. And if you learn to read these lessons in time, your path will be much shorter and happier. Here's another secret. Learning can't be passive. You can't change your life just by listening. You have to become a careful observer, a selective listener, a passionate reader. I always said, don't let anyone dump garbage into your mental factory. Protect your attention, choose what to listen to, whom to talk to, which stories to let into your heart. Because not everything around you is worthy of your trust. Now pause. Ask yourself, what did you learn new about yourself today? What lesson did today's conversation, a chance meeting, a page you read give you? Did you allow yourself to work out your mind, or did you just live the day on autopilot? Because life doesn't stand still, and the worst enemy isn't a mistake, but stagnation. I've felt firsthand how learning opens new horizons. Every new skill, every publication I read, every sincere conversation is a step toward greater wisdom. You'll notice the more you learn, the more opportunities appear. Your worldview becomes broader, your confidence deeper, your value more obvious. Remember, learning is the beginning of wealth, the beginning of health, the beginning of spirituality. Where learning begins, real life begins. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to look like a beginner, even at a mature age. Because it's in the student space that the future master is hiding. And this is only the beginning. It's going to get even deeper. But before we go further, I want you to honestly answer yourself, are you open to learning? Because everything great in life begins with this. And this is only the first of the 4 extraordinary components of life we'll talk about today. But that's not all. There are even more surprises, mini stories, and those very simple yet powerful principles ahead, the ones that change destinies. Stay tuned. Let's talk about the second little word, without which the first one has no power. Life is worth it if you try. You can read books until morning, listen to wise mentors, write down notes and quotes in the margins, but if you don't dare to try something new, all that knowledge will remain just theory. This is the second big mistake I almost made myself. I thought I would change my life just by filling my mind with ideas. But change never comes to those who don't act. I remember myself young and inspired, my head full of ideas after every one of my mentor's lectures. At the time, I worked in a small position, afraid to mess something up, afraid to look foolish in my first attempts. I thought I had to wait for the perfect moment when I'd be ready enough, confident enough, when support would appear and someone would say, here's your chance. But that perfect moment would never have come. And I would have remained that same guy with dreams and fears if one day I hadn't decided, just try. It was exactly then when I first, despite my fear, took a small step, changed the way I communicated with colleagues, dared to share an idea I'd never voiced before, that everything around me started to change. It wasn't a giant leap. It was a simple act that actually triggered a chain of big changes. Here's the paradox. Action not only shows the world who you are, it also reveals you to yourself. Every new attempt, every risk, even the smallest, cuts off the road back to fear and stagnation. You'll be surprised, but most people have no idea how much they can do if they just dare to try. We all tend to postpone. I'll start when it gets easier, when I'm confident, when someone helps. I'll admit honestly, over years of mentoring, I've seen hundreds of people postpone action until tomorrow, until the new year, until the right moment. But life doesn't wait. The real moment is always now, even if it's uncomfortable, scary, unfamiliar. Let's be honest, what actually holds most of us back? Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of looking foolish. I went through all of this myself. And most of all, I was afraid of failing in public. But it was only when I managed to overcome that fear and just start acting that the world responded with new opportunities. I'm not saying everything worked out the first time, no. But every attempt, even a failed one, was a lesson for me. Sometimes one real action teaches you more than 10 brilliant theories. That's the main irony. Most big changes start with a step that seems trivial, invisible to others. You know that inner dialogue. What if I can't do it? What if it's not for me? What will people say? I've heard those voices inside myself many times. But one day my mentor asked, how many more years are you willing to wait to find out if you can? I couldn't answer. And I realized there's only one way to know, try. That's when I made a rule for myself. You have the right not to know how, but you don't have the right not to try. Now, an important moment. How many times have you seen people try something new and envied their courage? Oh, how lucky he is. Oh, she's so determined. But the truth is, none of them were born successful and confident. Every bit of confidence is born from experience. And experience is, first and foremost, the sum of your attempts. Yes, some of them will fail, but without them, there will be no victories. People often ask me, how long should you keep trying? And I always answer, until it works. I know people who found their calling after dozens or even hundreds of failures. I myself once felt like I was endlessly trying and not seeing results. But looking back, I understand every attempt was a brick in my foundation. You can't grow a tree if you never plant a seed. You can't harvest if you don't risk sowing. It's important to remember, action isn't a guarantee of instant success, but it's the only guarantee of growth. When you try, you're not just testing yourself, you're giving life a chance to respond with new opportunities. I always tell my students, don't wait for your fear to disappear, start acting despite it. Because the greatest fear is to remain where you are now and years later regret that you never even tried. Remember, to try doesn't always mean to win, but it always means to take a step forward. You may not win right away, but you will definitely become stronger, wiser, more experienced. Every time you try, even if you make a mistake, you are no longer the person you were yesterday, and that's exactly what separates people who move forward from those who stay in the shadow of their own doubts. Let's take a little pause right now. Think, what have you been avoiding trying for a long time? What dream are you putting off until later? What exactly is stopping you, and are those reasons really so weighty? Often it's just internal resistance, not real circumstances. One of my favorite phrases, start where you are with what you have, and everything else will fall into place. This rule has worked for me in business, relationships, and self-development. Do you feel your fears let go when you start moving? That's how it should be, because strength is born in motion. Life always supports those who move forward, even if the path isn't perfect. One action is worth more than 1,000 dreams. One real effort is more valuable than the best idea that just stayed in your head. And when the moment comes when you don't even want to take a small step, just remember, real success isn't about winning the first time, but about not stopping after a setback. So life really is worth it if you try. It doesn't matter how small your first step is. It doesn't matter how many times you fall. The main thing is not to stop. Because every new action is a challenge to yourself. It's your way of proving, I haven't said my last word yet. Life becomes vivid when there's room for risk, experiment, and novelty. And it's these moments of trial and error that turn each of us from a passenger into the captain of our own lives. So try something new today, not for someone else, but for yourself. Step beyond your comfort zone. Allow yourself to feel the thrill of discovery, the taste of a small victory over yourself. Because this is how, step by step, real life is created. And most importantly, don't forget, how long should you keep trying? Until. Just until you feel you can't do otherwise. And then one day you'll look back and be amazed at how much became possible just because you weren't afraid to try. And believe me, this is only the second component of the big secret. There's even more ahead, deeper, more honest, more real. Stay tuned. Now friends, we've come to the third one of the most important principles. Life is worth it if you stay. At first glance, this sounds simple. What's so hard about it? But if you remember the most difficult, most pivotal moments in your life, you'll also recall that tempting voice in your head. Maybe I should quit. Maybe I should leave. Maybe I've had enough. It's in these moments that your true self is revealed. Are you someone who retreats or someone who can stay and see your path through to the end? I remember well my first serious attempt at running a business. In the beginning, I had everything. Enthusiasm, self-belief, even some savings. The first months went smoothly, but then a series of failures. One partner let me down, clients went to competitors, the account balance was empty. Those nights I sat and thought, is the price too high? Is it time to just accept it and go back to my old life? It felt like swimming against the current, and every stroke was painful. On those nights, my dream seemed almost ridiculous, and all I wanted was to quit everything and run away from responsibility, from struggle, from the unknown. But it was at that very moment that I first understood the true value in life is revealed to those who stay. Not because it's easier, but because only then can you see the real harvest. I often tell my listeners, if you've signed up for the game, don't leave the field in the middle of the match. So many people plant in the spring but abandon the field in the summer. They give up when they don't see instant results. But the juiciest fruits always grow for those who stay until the end. Imagine it's spring, you're full of energy, ideas, hope. You plant, maybe it's a new business, a relationship, a change in your life. But summer brings challenges, heat, storms, illness, setbacks. You want to give up, change course, start over. Only the most persistent stay until autumn. Only they see the true results of their efforts. In life, as in nature, there's seasonal wisdom. Don't rush to give up if you haven't gone through the full cycle. Don't leave the field before the fruits are ripe. I've seen many times how people abandon a good cause halfway just because it became uncomfortable, difficult, scary, or sad. They lost patience, faith, sometimes even right before a breakthrough. One day my mentor told me, "Jim, if you've already started, if you've signed up for the season, stay until the end, leave the field better than you found it." That became my main rule. Finish what you start, even if you have to fight through fatigue, doubts, pain, and even loneliness. You know, the greatest achievements in my life didn't happen because of genius ideas or luck, but because of stubbornness to stay. Exactly when everyone else was quitting, that's when doors opened I never even suspected were there. There's a simple truth. You never know how close you are to the finish. Maybe just one more step, one more day, one more effort, and everything will change. But you won't see it if you leave the course. All great changes start with the ability to stay, even when you want to run. I know people who worked on an idea for years and saw neither money nor recognition for years. People mocked them, called them failures, asked, "How much longer can you stand it?" But it was these people, those who stayed, who ultimately changed the world around them. They reaped a harvest not just for themselves, their example became inspiration for others. In my own life, there were moments when the only thing that kept me afloat was the decision to stay. I remember in a crisis year for my company, everyone expected me to give up, to shut down the project, and honestly, it would have been the easiest thing to do. But I stayed, and in time, what seemed like the end became a new beginning. Sometimes all you need is to simply not run away, to stay a bit longer, wait for the dawn. Friends, staying isn't about stubbornness for its own sake. It's not about blind faith. It's about responsibility to yourself, to your cause, to those around you. It's about not leaving emptiness behind you. If you've started a project, finish it. If you've signed up for a relationship, go through the tough times together. If you've chosen to change yourself, don't give up after the first setback. Every "I'm staying" is a brick in your inner fortress. Staying isn't always comfortable. Often it's a battle with yourself, with your fears and doubts. I know what it's like to wake up in the middle of the night feeling, "I can't handle this." I know what it's like to stand in front of your team who expect answers while you have none. But every day you don't give up adds to your strength. Every day you stay, even if no one sees it, shapes your character. Here it's worth recalling one simple truth. Life never promises the road will be easy, but always gives a chance to the one who doesn't leave the path. The longer you stay in the game, the more you learn patience, endurance, resilience, strategy, understanding yourself and others. This is what makes you valuable not just to yourself, but to the world. Ask yourself, where am I used to giving up? Where do I quit as soon as it gets tough? Maybe it's time to try staying a little longer. Stay until the end of the meeting, wait for results, finish the project, go through the hard period in your relationship, because only those who stay see the real results. It's important to learn not to run from difficulties, but to go through them to the end. That's where maturity and true victory are born. Remember, life is worth it if you stay. Not forever, not for your whole life, but at least for the period you've consciously chosen. Finish what you start, and let every path you walk be an example to others of how to stay, even when you want to give up. That's what makes people of character people who know the value of what they do. Ahead is one more component without which all the previous ones don't work. But before we get to it, think, where in your life is it time not to run away but to stay? Maybe right now you're standing at the threshold of your greatest victory. Don't leave your harvest in the field. Stay until the end. Here we've reached the fourth word, the one that truly holds all the previous ones together. Life is worth it if you care. Sounds simple, right? In reality, this is where the root of all real success, inner peace, and those deep changes that millions of people dream of lies. Because you can learn, you can try, you can even stay, but if you don't put your heart into it, all of it turns into mechanics, just another box checked off without ever feeling the true flavor of life. To care is not about being convenient for others. It's about choosing to invest your energy in what matters to you, creating value where there was none, and becoming the kind of person who doesn't walk past someone else's pain and doesn't ignore their own needs. To care means not just being a participant in the game, but playing full out, not looking for shortcuts and not putting off what matters until later. Gertz, I remember a story from my life that became a turning point in my understanding of what care really means. It was a tough year. My business was barely staying afloat. My team was exhausted. Clients were unhappy, and my daughter was sick at home. It's in moments like that when life tests you. Do you really care? Are you ready to care even when it's easier to give up? That's when I understood that caring means staying human even in the hardest times, not losing attention to the little things, supporting those around you even when it's hard for you too. I saw how one small act of care, one kind conversation, one gesture of support can change a day, and for someone, maybe an entire life. We often think, what difference does it make if I invest myself? But the world responds quickly to how you treat people, your work, yourself. My mentor used to say, if you don't care, you'll get random results. If you really do care, you'll be amazed at how everything around you starts to change. Ada says here. I've seen this proven time and again. When I worked just to get it done, success was temporary, short-lived, empty. But when I cared, the results came back multiplied in business, in family, in friendship, even in my relationship with myself. You can notice that people who truly care always stand out. They're not always the ones who speak the loudest or try to please everyone. They're the ones who don't walk past, who pay attention to details, who can stop and really listen. In today's world, where everyone is in a hurry and forgets the meaning of simple things, true care is a force that unites, inspires, and changes the atmosphere in any group. It makes you valuable to others and gives you a deep sense of self-worth. You know, there's a difference between just doing the job and doing something with your heart. I've seen it many times. Seemingly ordinary salespeople, waiters, cleaners, lift the mood of dozens of people just because they care. They didn't just do their job, they put a piece of themselves into it. And that's what people remember for years. It's the same in a family. You can just be present with your kids or partner, or you can be attentive, notice the details, support, comfort, encourage. I always said, caring doesn't cost money, but it costs us effort, and that's what pays the biggest dividends. Let's go even deeper. You need to care not only about others, but about yourself. It's not selfishness, it's responsibility. How can you be a support for others if you don't refill your own resources? I didn't get this right away. I often burned out at work and then had nothing left for my family or friends. Gradually, I realized, Jim, if you want to truly care for people, start by caring for your own energy, health, and spiritual well-being. Rest, good sleep, moments of quiet, personal growth, these are the foundation for caring for others. Without this, any kindness quickly turns into exhaustion and disappointment. And one more thing, real care is action, not just emotion. To care means to make choices, to call in time, to listen, to give advice, to support, not to pass by. It's refusing to be indifferent even in the smallest details. Often it's in those small things that big changes are born. I remember how one short conversation with a colleague who was about to quit changed his mind, and later he became a key person in the company. Just because someone cared. And how many times in your life have you met people who changed your path with a single word of support? That's what care is, being someone who creates change not with loud words, but with small, real actions. To care also means to have the courage to set high standards for yourself and for the world. Not to settle for good enough, not to tolerate indifference, not to leave things behind just so-so. And the biggest breakthroughs in my life happened when I started caring more about the quality of my work, the depth of my relationships, the value of my words. When you care, you don't just create a better life for yourself, you become a starting point for others. Here's an important point. The more you care, the bigger the results you can get. I used to say, if you don't care, you'll get random results. If you care a little, you'll get moderate results. But if you care for real, 100%, the result will surprise even you. Care isn't about good enough, it's about making things better. For yourself, for others, for the world. Let's pause and honestly think, what do you really care about? Are there things, people, ideas in your life you're indifferent to? And if so, maybe it's time to either change your attitude toward them or let them go. Life's too short to spend energy on what doesn't matter to you. Real care is about being honest with yourself, about having the courage to live not on minimum settings, but to the fullest. To care is to act, not waiting for perfect conditions, not when everyone is applauding, but when no one sees. Not for a reward, but because it's your way of living. I always said, true greatness is in care, not in status. It's this ability to care about your path, the people next to you, your own growth that makes life deep and meaningful. Remember, everything great starts with the simple, I care. And only for those who truly care do new horizons open. This is the fourth step on the path to a life that's worth your effort and time. But this isn't the finale yet. Next, together, we'll do an important practice that will help you turn these four principles into your daily reality. Stay tuned, the most interesting part is ahead. And now, friends, the moment has come when it's time not just to listen, but to act together. After all big changes start with honest questions to yourself. I want you right now not to pause the video, not to reach for a pen or notebook, but to answer yourself on the go, to feel these questions in your heart. Because real breakthroughs happen when we honestly, without filters, look into the mirror of our own soul. Here are 5 questions for you. Answer yourself on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 means, this is not about me at all, and 10 means, I live this every day, it's my reality. Don't strive to be perfect, just give yourself an honest answer right now. First question, how much do you learn something new every day? Imagine your mind is a muscle. If you stop training it, it gets weaker. How many new lessons do you let into your life every day? Or has your experience become a stagnant pond where the water hasn't been refreshed in a long time? Second question, how much do you really try new things, even when you're scared? Life is like the sea. Until you venture into the open, you'll never know what your ship is capable of. How often do you challenge yourself? Or do you let your fears keep you on the shore? Give yourself a score and don't stop halfway. Third question, how much do you stay when you want to run away? Because this is where dreamers are separated from doers. Imagine a marathon runner in the last kilometers. It's easy not to stop when there's support nearby, but do you have enough inner strength to stay when things get truly tough? Fourth question, how much do you care about what you do? About people, about your work, about yourself? Care is that invisible glue that holds all the parts of our life together. Do you feel this strength every day, or are your actions just duties and not an inner choice? And finally, the fifth, the most important, how ready are you to raise your bar by at least 1 point tomorrow? Because real progress isn't about leaps, it's about small inner shifts. Are you truly ready to change, not putting it off, with no excuses or justifications? All these questions are like a compass that helps you stay on course. Don't fool yourself, don't look for excuses, because only honesty with yourself builds the foundation for big changes. If you feel your score is low somewhere, that's not a reason for shame, it's a space for growth. Remember, there are no perfect people. But the one who asks the right questions and is ready to move forward is already a head above the one who avoids the truth about themselves. And now do one more thing. Write down at least one of these questions for yourself somewhere visible, or come back to them after watching. Think, what will you start with tomorrow? What will change in your actions? And definitely share your thoughts in the comments if you felt something personal in this video. Like and subscribe if you want more conversations like this. And don't forget, the real path starts with a small step, and you can take that step today. Friends, in closing, I want to tell you something that once changed my own path. You know, life isn't made up of big victories that we celebrate in public. It's made up of the small decisions you make alone with yourself when no one is watching. It's in these moments that your true strength is defined. It's there in the quiet of your own doubts that a new day, a new chance, a new you is born. Never let habit or fear steal your thirst for learning. Don't let indifference turn you into just an observer in your own life. Remember, every day is a blank page, and only you decide what it will be filled with. You can stay the version of yourself from yesterday, or with every sunrise, you can become a little wiser, a little braver, a little kinder. I was the one who lost. I was the one who was afraid to act, who wanted to run away, who sometimes felt completely empty. But these 4 simple truths saved me when everything around was dark. They became my guiding light, and they can become yours too, because life truly becomes worth it when you learn, when you're not afraid to try, when you have the courage to stay, and when you put care into every day. And if today you felt this call, don't put off change until later. Your destiny isn't created by someone out there, but by you here and now. Remember, you can have more if you become more. Your changes are in your hands. So allow yourself to be a student, be brave enough to try, hold on when you want to give up, and care for others, for your work, for yourself. This is the formula for true strength, one that no one can ever take from you. Life is a moment you can't repeat. Life is a road where everything depends on your choices, and only you decide if that road is worth it. Make every day a counter of new victories, and one day, looking back, you'll be amazed to say, I really lived, I really was.